have been okay, but for me, it's how they play in the game, how quickly they're able to force action. And if they are going to change something up, it would be to see if they can play around some more lanes, especially the bottom side of the map, which got left out to dry in game number 2. PerkZ absolutely ran over Patrik.
So, I'm going to take gamble and say Rek'Sai first pick, insta-lock.
Whoa! Oh, here we go. Oh, Vedius prediction king.
So, I'm then going to say Lissandra Jarvan as the next 2. What? And then I'm going to say Xayah Rakan. I'm going to say Xayah Rakan. I'm just going to throw it out there, guys.
This is the only risky one, in my opinion. This is the only place I think, are they still going to go Xayah Rakan? But if you get this right, Vedius, you are truly the superior analyst of this.
It's not like they ran this draft before.
So maybe an Akali ban next for Origen?
Well, hit me up.
They're literally doing the same thing.
So they picked the Tahm Kench. Hit me with some thoughts here, though, because this did not work for Origen in game 1.
I actually am not a huge fan of the Tahm Kench here. I'd have rather seen them take something.
But here's the shift up. Here's the change.
Ooh. The Aurelia ban here, removing that from Wunder, even though they had counterpick for top lane last game, and Alphari wasn't a good matchup where he was able to dominate. Specifically for me, what I'm looking at now for Origen is a really strong top lane pick they can play around. Not a Poppy, because Poppy, she can win lane, but in team fights, not going to have that same level impact that you would like. I need Alphari on something that can deal damage, because with a Tahm Kench pick, you are not playing for Patrik in this game.
Well, there's the Akali ban as well coming out from Origen once again. We do, as you say, see the Corki left available, which Origen banned last time we went through this draft. Zed removed by G2. They also banned away the Ezreal on this phase, and instead it's going to be the Jace getting taken out.
Looking at a Hecarim priority once again for the side of G2. I wonder if Origen will take it away. They won't. They're immediately going to lock in the AD carry, and they want to try and give Alphari the counter pick towards topside. Now remember that things like the cannon are still up and available, so locking in a Hecarim is a little riskier, but with Jace, Aurelia, and Akali all gone, I think that it's still a relatively safe blind pick.
Now, one of their bans, Origen's ban specifically in game 2, was the Corki. It now does get locked in for caps here. So once again, it's going to be G2 with heavy scaling. By running double marksman, especially caps on this Corki, you are going to be able to teamfight very strongly as you move in towards your second and especially third item power spikes.
All you really want is a bit of a front line to stand in front of those double marksmen. So you've already got the Rek'Sai, who can of course go tanky. The Gankplank feels a little bit out of sorts there, but it will be locked in by G2. It's an okay blind pick towards that top lane.
I mean, we've seen a lot of champions really dumpster it, and the thing is that you can lose gracefully on the pick and you go down significantly in CS, but still be relevant. Bwipo is the best example of that, and by banning away champions like the Jace, you try to remove some counter matchups, but ultimately, Gankplank is always going to struggle against ranged champions. Whether or not that's the Swain or the Lissandra, both of them can easily clear out his barrels and threaten all-ins if a jungler is coming up there as well.
One of the things I will say about the Gankplank is he does help when playing around bot lane. His ultimate is a great contributor in setting up for dives, and you've also got the package on Corki. So this to me implies that cats will be roaming around the map a lot, and that their primary goal will be to try and get the bot side of the map ahead, just like they did last game. Whereas for Origen, I think once again we're looking at these team fights, and it begs the question of Origen need to change up their ability to force these fights in this game, because one of the issues they've had so far in the series is the willingness to pull the trigger, the willingness to maybe take a fight that isn't 70-30 and actually go for a fight where you can get those outplays in.
And I like seeing this from Alphari. He's returning to the Swain. Last year, I remember when Swain was a big pick, he played a lot of it in the top lane. In game number 2, he played so well on the Pop. He got so much attention from his team as well. We will see a repeat of that in this game, I truly believe, but it has to be different for Origen. They have to be able to turn their lane advantages on the top side, if they choose to play there, into much more around the rest of the map.
Got to translate if you're Origen. Do or die. We're going to hand over to a quick interview. Law is backstage.
Thank you very much, guys. This time I'm with Carlos. Let's play a bit of a game here. If you had to find one word to sum up this series so far, what would it be?
Yoga.
Yoga.
2 words, less pizza, maybe. I'm gonna get so much for that online. It is what it is.
Back to you guys.
So I'm confused.
So I'm not. There was a New York Times article that came out this week talking about Origen and their training strategies, and they said, we got rid of some of the pizza and we added more yoga into our routines, and it worked out well for us. That's where that comes from Carlos. To bring it back to a more somber note for Origen, it's do or die. They have to reverse sweep G2 if they're going to make it straight through to the finals. Otherwise, they will face Fnatic next week.
Watch Mykix here. They did this last game where he took W and snuck around. Alphari's playing a little aggressive. They have Gankplank. Now, they don't have the Swain they had last game, so it's less CC. I don't think they can get a kill, but they could look to burn an early flash.
How are they going to do this?
Caps has yet to level up a skill, doesn't have the W. Here we go. Wunder stepping straight into Alphari. There's Mithy. Waiting for the knock-up. Alphari doesn't flash away from it. The chase is still on. Alphari ignited the parlay. Wunder with burst blood, and that puts a massive stake through the heart of Origen's plans of playing through top.
It's just disrespect to the amount of damage Gankplank does at level 1 with his passive. The true damage burn is huge, and Alphari was not going to flash the initial CC.
Papa Smithy saying, the more I watch and review Wunder, the more convinced I get that he might be the best Western League of Legends player. Well, give the best Western League of Legends player first blood, and let's see what he can do.
Yeah, and he's got Caps and PerkZ on his team.
I was going to say, I was like, that's quite a statement to make.
LCK analysts.
I mean, it's definitely something to take into consideration. The man is very talented, but he's also been...
Are you talking about Papa Smithy?
I was focusing on Wunder.
I see.
But the thing about Wunder is he's always been regarded throughout his entire career as being a carry top laner. And one of the big criticisms that he used to have when he played for Splice is that when the meta was very team fight focused, his impact on tanks was nowhere near as relevant as it was on carries. Like, he was the guy that used to play Trinity Force Fizz top, and he used to play these kind of crazy champions that would get leads and he'd be a really big side lane threat, but on tanks he never had that prevalence, and it feels like that ever since he joined G2, he's never really needed to. He's had the creative freedom to play whatever he wants, and while I'm confident he could still play tanks, he's definitely shown a lot of growth over the year that he spent on G2 in 2018.
Yeah, he's also a player that just shows up internationally as well, you know? A lot of the time you see him go onto that stage, and all anyone talks about is the strength of G2 solo laners. We heard it a lot last year. Well, now they've added more strength to the roster, top to bottom. You have a case to be best in your role, or at least top 2, top 3, and this team already looking scary in the series against Origen.
It definitely is. We actually see Origen deciding to go for a couple of minion dematerializers pretty early on here. Well, in their rune choices, you've got one on Nukeduck in the mid lane and one on Mithy down towards the bottom side. Of course, was changed on 9.6 to only give you 3 stacks instead of the usual 6, but can still help you if you want to push out some of these waves.
Yeah, for sure. And the other interesting thing to note is the electrocute on the Corki. This isn't typically what we're used to seeing, and
it's usually fleet footwork.
Yeah, but it definitely contributes to the burst, and I also think that it kind of just speaks to Caps as a player. If he has the opportunity to kill his opponent, he will go for it. And I think one of the advantages is that against the Corki, it can be harder for a Lissandra to actually proc that aftershock to land that W, because she's never really going to get in range, which means that every time she kind of approaches the wave, it's actually very easy for Caps to kind of land that initial burst combo of the E into auto into Q to then convert that into...
Now look here, top lane. Jankos is going in, but Kold has the counter gank.
Hold there just in time. Jankos going to run away. Wunder just chase back towards his tower. Alphari not able to land the never move. Now, meanwhile, in the mid lane, Caps shrunk down to about 250 HP. Nukeduck has the advantage here. Of course, has already teleported back into that lane.
I feel like we have to talk about the junglers, though, because once again, Kold reads Jankos like a book. He's such a strong pathing jungler that he often shuts down plays the other team is trying to make. Well, that's a rough trade for him, I'll say.
It's what Hail of Blades will do to you early on if Jankos can get those auto attacks off. Maybe looking for the knock-up here, but Caps is pretty low and just needs to be safe in the lane for the time being.
Other thing to note is that Caps is running the cleanse in the mid lane as well. Typically, Corkis like to run the teleport so they can act as a side lane split pusher, but against Lissandra, it's very dangerous. And we see a lot of trading in the bot lane. And notice how much more confidently Patrik is playing. He's not at a deficit. He didn't have to give up, his support didn't have to give up Flash at level 1. And he is playing this Jinx where he's actually managed to build up a pretty healthy CS lead already in the bottom lane.
Supports have a bit of a summoner mismatch as well. Both AD carries running the teleport, but Mithy has Ignite, whereas Mithy has the heal for this lane.
And it speaks to how these supports and these teams want to play around the bottom side, whereas G2 want the Ignite to have the extra quick kill threat, because I do expect Jankos to be making a visit in the future. Just top side right now, he knows Alphari has no flash, but after this reset, perhaps could look bottom lane, whereas Mithy knows it's not about Patrik until much later in the game, until 3 items for this Jinx. He just needs the heal to keep his carry safe.
Across the board, we see Wunder getting a bit of an advantage up towards the top lane as expected. Now has a Sheen as he gets back into the lane. Is running the Grasp with the Undying Gankplank. Sometimes we see Klepto Gankplank, but usually Grasp when you want to be a bit safer in lane.
Yeah, I think against a lot of tanks, you will see the Klepto because you're never under threat, whereas against the ranged matchup, having the extra sustain from the Grasp and Undying is going to be very beneficial.
We also just note that Caps still hasn't backed. He has tried to back like 3 or 4 times now, and he's like, yeah, I'll stay for one more wave. Yeah, okay, I'll stay for one more wave.
And see what Kold is doing too. He's protecting Nukeduck on this push. Nukeduck, who TP'd back into lane to get the extra Dark Seal and Fairy Charm, just permanently shoved this wave, is not giving any room for Caps to go back to base. So when Caps does go back, he'll be working very close towards that Trinity Force to be able to pick up a Sheen or a Phage on the way, but won't have the chance for a little while.
It's already sitting at 1,600 gold, which, for the record, you definitely want to try and base on Corki, and as you rightly said, either the Phage or the Sheen is your first back, but the fact that he's being kept in lane for so long makes it difficult because he doesn't really have the mana right now to generate pressure, which means that it's then harder for Jankos to try and set up invades to get some of that vision down, to keep an eye on what Kold is doing, whereas Kold can move into the enemy jungle, just as you were highlighting. While he is helping protect Nukeduck, he's also doing what he can to spot out where Jankos is and what he's up to.
So about a 500 to 600 gold lead coming out here for G2. A lot of that sitting on Wunder in the top lane. We saw that he was a few hundred ahead. And that's just all because of that first blood, right? That's all that's
400 from it.
Yeah,
There's also CS in there as well. You don't expect GP to be 15 CS up over a Swain.
How can Origen rectify this situation, though? We've seen Kold try and sneak up towards that top lane for a gank once or twice. Hasn't always worked out because Jankos has been there. But do they need to rectify it quickly, or can they just keep this as the state of affairs?
Well, I do think that Swain naturally just scales very well into the game. But the easiest way to rectify this is to gank. And I'd love to see Kold try and make a gank happen. I think Jarvan and Lissandra is a great duo. Obviously, against a cleanse, it's very difficult, but he has a lot of options, I feel. He could look for a play up towards the top side of the map. He could look for a play mid, and that's the easiest way to get out of a deficit. Just try and force a play and, you know, find kills.
Yeah, it's hard to work mid with the cleanse on Corki as well as the Valkyrie, but you can see Jankos actually changing up his job a little bit. He was sitting in the pixel brush, tracking Kold, who has now hit level 6 and has a little bit more priority in this matchup. He's going to see Jankos on the Wolves, and he knows Caps is finally getting his reset off, so Kold doesn't have the smite and won't be able to try to steal, and unfortunately, even with that pressure, won't be able to get too much done.
Kold looking for the places where he can gank. Bot is pretty pushed in. Package now picked up by Caps as well, so we'll start to see if we look for those roams down towards the bottom lane. With the Cannon Barrage, with the package, that's what we expected in pick and ban, and with PerkZ being on the Xayah once again after being so effective on it in game 2, I'm sure G2 will want to set him up for success once again.
Key difference, though, is that PerkZ does not have kills coming out of this laning phase. He's actually down a little bit in CS as well, because, let's face it, Jankos has not made bottom lane a priority. PerkZ has been able to push in rather consistently down here, but hasn't been able to put too much pressure down. Both AD carries running teleports means that, yes, there is heightened kill threat in the lane, but ultimately, if Patrik just wants to sit under his tower and farm, he's definitely going to be able to do so.
Let's also take note of who has priority right now, because G2 have been able to push in all 3 lanes. The Gankplank actually has constant push over the Swain right now in this early laning phase. The Corki, now that he's been able to go back to base, is also pushing Nukeduck underneath this tower, and the bot lane. The reason why Patrik and Mithy can't play as aggressively as they were is because they actually have no vision in the river. That is triple control wards right now for the bot side of the map in favor of G2, and it means that the risk of a dive is very real.
Quickness used, the Featherstorm comes out from PerkZ as well. The root's going to land onto Patrik as he flashes away. Mithy underneath the tower still has the thick skin available. The Void Rush coming onto Patrik, and Jankos will secure him. Kold now here, dunks down onto the Rek'Sai, but he isn't close enough to the tower to take the damage. Nukeduck gets able to get away with the blast cone. Caps still on the chase though, and Nukeduck won't be there to save his jungler in time. 2-for-1 change. So far, Mithy with the Abyssal Voyage gets behind Caps, but all they're going to do is chase him back towards PerkZ. Frozen Tomb cleans away from Nukeduck. Has a lot of damage, but Caps gets the second. Mithy will kill Mickey and won't be able to get away. PerkZ flashes away from Mithy and gets a kill for himself as well. 3-for-2 in favor of G2.
A bloody engagement around the bottom lane, but G2 show no hesitation. Jankos just landed the Prey Seeker and dove straight underneath the tower to get the first kill on towards Patrik, and it was because of the vision setup you talked about, Vedius, that they were able to walk all the way down and set up for this play.
And so note here how they just hit level 6, immediately go for the engage. Mithy is able to land the double taunt. Jankos then comes over the wall, and notice how PerkZ is patient before he calls back the feathers, because then he can land the double root. You then have the Jankos ultimate to lock down the AD carry, who is now flashless, and with the arrival of Caps, things are looking pretty good for OG. But then Nukeduck starts to turn things around. Not only does he find a kill onto the jungler, but he's quite confident that he can... Ooh, hang on, fight!
In the mid lane, Nukeduck caught out, but flash devour from Mithy. Kold locks up Mickey, who used the battle dance to get away, and Nukeduck can use his glacial path to get under the tower.
This is what I want to be seeing from Origen, though, because in the last game, they were too slow with their advantages. They weren't able to convert it into other areas, and while they are behind in the game currently, keeping this fast pace and looking for picks like this is the right mentality.
The main point, or the main takeaway from the play that just happened is that Caps now has an advantage in the mid lane. The bot lane has been put behind from the side of Origen, and now they're kind of forced into wave clear duty, and they have to be very afraid of PerkZ getting this big lead once again, because let's not forget what he did last game. He was basically the wall that stopped OG from making plays. We heard it from Yamato, we talked about it already in the cast. It was the fact that they couldn't take down that mid-tier 1 that limited Origen from utilizing the Tahm Kench, setting up vision in the enemy jungle, and actually making plays. And if PerkZ gets to the same situation, G2 will be more than happy to trust him to do the same thing again.
You can see Caps sitting at the top of the gold chart, Nukeduck following him, but then Wunder and PerkZ, Patrik falling behind, Alphari miles behind as well, about 600 gold in the hole against his opposing laner. And we talk about how we want to see OG play more proactively, we want to see them on the front foot, but if we have a look at the All-Pro team this year, there were 3 members of G2 on that lineup and no members of Origen, and that's because Origen don't have those standout playmakers. They don't have those guys that step up and make the 1v4 play. Nukeduck escaping here in the bottom lane.
It's one of those things where, for me, Origen is a team that's greater than the sum of their parts. What makes Origen so good and what has found them so much success in the second half of the split is their teamwork, and the fact that they have so many versatile strategies, and the fact that they come across as a very smart team. But pound for pound, you just naturally give the advantage to players like Caps, like Wunder, like PerkZ, and I feel like in this series is kind of an example of why you often put your vote in that corner.
Exactly, because the question that's asked is, what's better, the team play that wins later in the game, or finding the right fights, or the people that'll just win 1 versus 1? And so far this series, a lot of it has been the solo plays from the side of G2.
Mean, we think about the team fights, right? Like, one of the things that can often get lost is how these individuals make those plays that end up winning you those fights. So even if the fight is like 80-20 in your favor and everything you've done is correct, sometimes if you just have that unbelievable player that does something crazy.
Sometimes you have Wunder, and he just goes in the backline 1v3 and kills everyone.
So it's one of those things that makes G2 so scary as a team. But Origen, they're not completely out yet. They are at a pretty big deficit. They've actually completely abandoned the bot lane. They've swapped up towards the top side, and right now this early game is falling out of their control.
Yeah, I mean, they're already 2,500, 3,000 gold behind. You've got Trinity Force finished on Corki. You've got an Essence Reaver already complete onto PerkZ, and sitting only at, pieces of items on the side of Origen. It feels like G2, with this ability to scale with the double marksman, are in a very strong position.
They are indeed. And now the Rift Herald is a point of contention. Remember that OG do have 4 members here. Caps has the package, so he should be able to get out fairly safely. But look at how low Kold is. The Gankplank ulti is available, and here comes Jankos.
Jankos on his way, knocks up the Scuttle Crab. Rift Herald's going to reset. Wunder chased off towards the top side, has to burn the flash, and Jankos coming in from the side here as Caps chases away Nukeduck. Rift Herald chased him all the way into the jungle, but is just going to reset in the end.
But now PerkZ has just taken the bot tower, and he can actually group up with his team. He has the teleport if he needs it, but he's likely just going to walk up towards this Rift Herald as Caps gets priority mid, and G2 should be the ones to secure this objective once again.
Yeah, I believe Alphari actually used his ultimate down the bottom lane as well. Going to port in here into the mid lane, just trying to protect this tower, but oh my!
Gets rooted up straight away on the flame jump as he's chased away. No ultimate on him. Caps there, just tanking up in front of his AD carry. Patrik will just clear out the way for the moment. Rift Herald has been started up. Alphari down towards the bottom lane. Double the amount of plates for G2 here in the early portion of this game.
Now, both top laners do still have their teleport. Remember, Wunder has the cannon barrage as well to influence a fight around this area if it were to break out. But OG are not confident enough to move into the river, and because PerkZ got blown up in that fight, he had to reset. So it will be parity on the map once again.
The thing is, though, whenever we see someone get blown up on the side of G2, they somehow seem to be able to get out alive. Cap still has the cleanse here, which is why I'm not too worried for him at the moment, but will just be chased off towards that mid lane once again. Coming past the 15-minute mark in this game, it's a pretty sizable lead for G2, about 3,500 gold ahead.
So the thing that often surprised me is, in that situation, Nukeduck chose not to ult, when I feel like he could have, right? And the thing you gotta remember is, Mithy.
You do have to remember
I
Mithy.
feel like they're looking for a fight.
They really are.
Yeah.
Wunder coming in as well. Here's Jankos. Powder Keg's gonna land, but Kold's just forced away for the time being.
Right. So the thing about Cleanse, right, is it actually has a very long cooldown. It's 210 seconds. If my math is right, that's 3.5 minutes.
It is.
Good
right?
stuff.
Well done.
And I feel like when you have an ultimate like Lissandra's, which is only a 1.5 minute cooldown, you can force it, and then your ultimate will be up again before their cleanse is back. And one of the things that I often wonder is, Origen just feel like they look at these situations like, we can't make the play happen because, well, you know, they have these summoner spells and they get out of this situation, but they don't think, well, we can make this play happen and then we're setting up for the next play. It just feels like that they're playing a little too cautious. They're not willing to take gambles, and I feel like that they kind of need to when they're down 2-0 in a best-of-5 for a spot at the finals.
Very much agree with you there, Vedius, and it's kind of that sum of their parts discussion, isn't it? Origen are greater than the sum of their parts because as a team, as a unit, they work so well together. But
Yes.
you don't see the one person saying, okay, I'll take the 50-50. I believe in myself that little bit more than I believe in Caps, than I believe in Wunder.
And that's not to say that they're bad players, right? Because like we look at players like Nukeduck, and even in that 1 versus 3, he had a very impressive Lissandra play, and he actually ended up getting a one kill in that situation. And we've seen Alphari, he popped off last game on that Poppy as well, right? It's just one of those situations where sometimes it feels like they're playing a little too safer than they need to.
But you can't blame them when you're playing against a team like G2. You have Caps, who's won 2 LEC titles. You have PerkZ, who's won 4. You have this team of veterans who are probably the best players in their roles in a lot of positions across the course of all of the LEC. It's so hard to think, I can take this guy in a 1v1. I can take this guy in a 2v1.
And Origen's response so often is, we'll take them in the 5v5. And if you are them, you know, with the headsets on, behind the PCs in this game, down 4,000 gold, you have to come up on the fly with a strategy to beat them. And I think their best bet is to wait a little bit. Patrik is going to be the damage dealer for this team, and while, yes, you can look to fight with the numbers advantage, ultimately, I think you need to wait before looking for the explosive fights until Jinx is at 3 items. Because OG, while they don't have a true tank frontline, they do have a lot of survivability with a Lissandra, a Swain, the full tank Jarvan, even a Tahm Kench to bail someone out, that they can go for longer fights and wait for Jinx to get the reset before they can win. The difficulty for them is going to be that even in the late game, that doesn't mean they outscale, because G2 have so much power, 3 players that are going to be building full crit.
And so what we just saw there was another Origen Classic where they sent multiple members, pretty much the entire team, towards one side of the map in order to gain control. And with Dragon spawning, they actually wanted to secure the bot tower and trade it for the top one, and maybe find a pick as G2 try to get some vision around this Dragon. But G2 actually just secure the top tower, they get vision topside, and they use the Gankplank ultimate to clear out bot. So Origen actually get nothing off the back of that. They lose the Rift Herald, and now they could very well lose the mid-tier one as well.
Rift Herald going to be used mid here. This 4.5, almost 5,000 gold lead for G2. Just continues to extend. Caps waiting for the Rift Herald to charge in. The tower goes down. Mithy caught out by Jankos here. Pops the thick skin, but Caps is on the chase. Root up with the flame. Chompers not going to have enough damage to take down Mithy, but Patrik's forced back as well.
Going in.
And with the Rift Herald going forward there, the Void Rush, Jankos gets the kill. He'll get a double. Takes down Mithy. And now Kold is on the chase as Jankos just about gets away for the moment. Eventually will fall to the vision of that. Doesn't connect. He's used the bow to get away, but there's no flash on Jankos. Kold
is going to get it.
Does have his flash EQ combo. Final auto attack's enough. They shut down Jankos, but they lose so much for it.
I actually think Jankos was out of combat right there, so he got the shutdown gold, because in combat, the shutdown will not update. If you get a pentakill, you won't get shutdown if you're immediately killed. But he lived for so long that Kold got like 600 gold off of that play.
Oh man, but the fact that Jankos went for that play, showing you the power of Hail of Blades right there in the early game. The fact that you're able to stack up that Fury so quickly means that he used his ultimate to get the initial chunk of damage off, but then that E damage was just so devastating. So that actually bought a lot of time for G2. They pushed in both lanes. Wunder still holds on to this bot tier 1, and it feels like the G2 have just got full control over this game.
And plays like that are so reminiscent of the first half of the split G2. You know, this G2 that went 9-0. PerkZ gets away, uses the Featherstorm to get to safety, but It's very easy after looking at their last few weeks to forget how strong G2 were in those first 5 weeks, how much they dominated the league. We were talking about them as the most dominant team we'd ever seen in Europe. And this is such a strong performance by them as they get the charm on the backline. Caps rooted up. Nukeduck uses the frozen tomb on himself. Mithy very low, almost goes down to the cannon barrage. The barrel's not able to connect, but here's Caps from the side, and now Nukeduck just trying to dodge around. PerkZ gets the kill. It's another as Wunder puts the parlay into the back of Mithy. 2 more players from OG fall, and G2 once again come out on top.
Just 20 minutes into the game, G2 are trying their best to roll over Origen. They're up 7,000 gold. The Baron even hasn't been on the map for a minute. They're still going to move over towards it. Kold is in the base. He's trying to run here to make a play happen, but it might be too late.
Alphari here, 5,000 HP left on the Baron. Patrik coming in from the side as well, doesn't have the Super Mega Death Rocket. 4,000 HP now on that Baron. Alphari's going to pop the Demonic Ascension, can get in the middle of them all. Caps able to survive as he he just jumps away. They do reset the Baron, but OG don't get too much out of it.
So we can see here that Origen, after what was a pretty devastating fight, end up actually keeping the Baron away from G2's hands. But that fight was not an ideal situation for OG to find themselves in. So as we start this replay off pause, what you'll notice is that a lot of Origen are just grouped up in this kind of choke point here. And they're going to be forced to escape up through this narrow point. And this is going to allow the Mithy on here to come in from the side, land a multi-man taunt, and then the Gankplank ultimate, who's just sitting behind on his way up, as you can see on the minimap. He's going to walk his way up, he's going to throw the ultimate on top of the team, and this is just going to melt through the squad. So as we roll out the replay, you'll see how this whole fight comes together and how it kind of devastates through the lineup of Origen. And the fact that the one-more combo worked in this very tight choke point meant that it was a very easy fight for G2 to get the chase down in.
And it's basically a 2v5 at the start, right? It's a Rakan and a Corki jumping into that corridor, but because they had the threat of the rest of the team coming, the cannon barrage as well as the CC from Rakan, just keep Origen in there. Origen were on full retreat the entire time, and G2 were able to get full control over this top side.
Have total vision control over the Baron pit. Teleport coming in here as Mithy is overstepped. Pops the thick skin. The blast good news by Wunder. Mithy will go down. Wunder on a killing spree. 10-3, 7,500 gold lead for G2 now.
But why is Mithy even there? Like, Baron buff is up, you're warding for a Cloud Drake, it just doesn't make sense. Origen are all out of sorts. We were wondering what they were going to do. They're just going to get engaged on.
Charm lands onto Kold, the second charm onto Alphari as well. Nukeduck splitting down towards the bottom side, but Kold will pop the Cataclysm and he will fall. G2 just cleaning up Origen. The Void Rush comes in and Jankos sinks the fangs in. PerkZ gets a double. This could just be the game.
And Origen are falling apart as the 5-man unit of G2 make their way towards the Nexus and will make their way towards the final at Rotterdam.
They didn't win a title in 2018. They dominated the first half of the split, and then people started to doubt. People wondered if G2 could be as strong as they looked early on. Well, they are showing us here against Origen that they are here to fight.
Origen, they're trying their best. It's the last-ditch effort for this team.
Nexus towers are down. G2 take down Nukeduck, and the Nexus is in their sights. Kold with a flash in. Alphari here as well. Patrik pops the Super Mega Death Rocket. Gets one. Caps shut down. The Nexus towers have fallen, but G2 have to run. Patrik looking for the resets. The red buff slow. The zap is
Get
enough.
excited,
he gets
people!
excited, but they can't get the chase off any further. Tahm Kench comes in behind them, but it's all him on his lonesome. It's Mithy versus his former team as they try and take down PerkZ. Don't root him up. Don't take him out. It's a shutdown going over to Kold.
Origen are running to Baron. This was their last chance to stay alive in the game. G2 thought they had the time to take down the Nexus. We all thought they had time to knock that one down, but no. Patrik had something to say about it. They stayed alive, and with no towers defending their base, they are starting the Baron. It's only Jankos that can try to steal.
8,000 HP left on the Baron. Jankos has stolen an Elder Dragon already this week, and Wunder has the teleport up in 7 seconds as well. 4,000 HP on the Baron. Patrik wailing away on it, but Jankos looking for the ability to get in. The Baron down to 2,000. Jankos gets Mithy. The Baron down to 1,000 now, but Mithy eats him up, and Kold will get it. Wunder now teleported into the fight. Is this enough? Can G2 get the chase off? Can Origen get out with their lives? Nukeduck is down towards the bottom side. Alphari chased out by Wunder. Wunder just needs the trial by fire. Who gets him? That's another kill for Jankos off towards the top side as well as Patrik falls. Kold chased underneath the tower. He will survive.
Nukeduck was waiting in the base, expecting a backdoor. He had the teleport, but he did not come into the fight. 5 members of G2 are are alive, and there's just 2 on the side of OG.
Exactly that. Even though Origen secure the Baron, I don't know if they can hold the line against 5 members of G2. Only 3 in the base right now. Let's see if Origen can do it.
Super minions pushing in, PerkZ and Caps on their way. Look at the death timers. Mithy up, Patrik in 10, Alphari in 20. Baron minions now respawn for Origen. The engage, the charm. Caps jumps in. Nukeduck goes golden, pops the stopwatch for the moment, but he's down. And Caps and G2 will silence anyone that doubted them, and they will fight for the title in Rotterdam.
Expectations were not that G2 would 3-0. We expected this to be a 5-game series. We expected the back and forth. But G2, they came in prepared. Every member showed up. And this is G2 at full power.
And every single game from this team just got better and it got cleaner. Game 1 was scary. If you're a G2 fan, you thought OG were gonna take them down, but game 2 was dominant and game 3 was not even close. G2 were the best team on the day and they're looking like the best team going into Rotterdam.
And this is what the team was built to be. They were meant to dismantle Europe. They picked the best players from every position, and they hoped to build one of the strongest rosters that Europe has ever seen. And while they faltered in the second half of the split, they came into playoffs prepared, and now they look like a terror for whoever goes up against them in the final.
Because for 2018 G2, they made it semifinals. Everyone remembers that, but it was a failure domestically. They could not continue their streak. They won 4 titles in the first 2 years before it. They won 0 in 2018. They completely changed their roster. PerkZ to AD carry, people thought they were out of their minds, but then they bring in Caps, they bring in Mykix, and this team just looks almost unstoppable.
This does mean that G2 moves on to the final next Sunday, where Origen will play up against Fnatic the day before on Saturday. Get your tickets for the finals weekend in the Ahoy Arena at eu.lolesports.com/Rotterdam. And you talked about PerkZ in the lane swap, but he had an exemplary performance in those last 2 games. Game 2, Game 3 on the Xayah, he was popping off.
It was impressive to watch, honestly, from this team. I mean, we've said it so many times, every single role can carry, but it did come to fruition here. It was true for G2. Game 1, Caps. Game 2, it was Wunder, it was PerkZ. Game 3, I just think the whole team won their lanes. They just walked down and there was nothing Origen could do to stand in their way.
Who do you think was key player of the series? Was it Wunder, Caps, or PerkZ? Head on over to @lolesports on Twitter and vote. I'm a support main, and I think it was Mithy. His return was absolutely impeccable. He made all the plays. If he doesn't engage, no one can follow up.
I mean, I think many players from G2 had very impressive performances. I think Jankos was someone to take into consideration as well. I think game 1, he definitely got out-jungled by Kold in the early game, but as the series went on, he warmed up. The burn from Shock still clearly hurting him in game 1, but progressively got better and better.
Speaking of Jankos, he and PerkZ will actually join Shock's and Yamato Cannon in the post-game lobby in just a few minutes. So
very nice. We
can hear, you know, what Shock's is burn actually, how it affected Jankos, how he thought about it.
But for Origen, I think they're obviously going to be very frustrated. They wanted, at the very least, to take a game off of G2. And while game 1 was very close, as Ender said, it just kind of got better and better for G2, but worse and worse for Origen. And they will have another opportunity. They will go up against Fnatic in our semi-final on Saturday, and if they win that, they have the opportunity to rematch G2 in the final. Now, naturally, G2 would look like the favorite in that matchup, just like they would against either of them, but it sets up for a really exciting matchup between Origen and Fnatic, the former final back in 2015, one of the hypest series we've ever had. It's definitely going to be a match that you want to tune into.
It definitely is. Let's see what Caps and Mithy have to say after making it to the final.
Thank you very much, guys, and thank you both for joining me. This series was a bit strange, I'd say, but in a good way for you guys, because a close game 1, controlled game 2, and a brutal game 3. Do you feel like you got powered up as the games went, or was it Origen collapsing, Caps?
I mean, for sure, I felt a bit rusty game 1. I didn't like, it was like we haven't been playing a stage for a long time, right? So, of course, I would feel like a bit rusty. And also, they got like a really early lead. So we were playing on the back foot, and we were fine with that, right? We were talking about forcing a bunch of fights, but we wanted to just like relax and like outskill them instead. And then the next 2 games, we got like the early lead, so we could like push it a bit more.
It's interesting because it's a new format this year, and the fact that you haven't been playing for a while proves it. How do you feel about the new format, Mithy?
I mean, now that we're first, I kind of like the new format, but yeah, I think it just in general it's pretty good.
Okay.
I like it.
And didn't you miss not playing for 2 weeks? I mean, wasn't it weird just watching the teams from behind and not knowing who?
I mean, it was a bit strange, and today as well was a bit scary, I guess. In the early stages of the first game, I was like really scared to do anything
Why?
because I didn't play on stage in a while, so I need to get kind of used to it. And then I think, yeah, third game was better. Second game we don't talk about, but yeah.
Getting back to this series now, do you think Origen was missing something to match you guys? And what was it?
So I think Origen might have underrated us going into playoffs just because we had a very bad last couple of weeks. But we also said a lot of times, like, right, we wanted to be like at our peak in playoffs, right? We want to peak when we go to Rotterdam. So I think they underrated us, and I think if they want to beat us, they should probably win for different strategies, maybe a bit more cheesy strategies. They played very meta comps, and they played what we expected them to play. And I just don't think they we can win like that, you know.
I kind of agree with you, and I underestimated you guys a bit because I haven't seen you play for such a long time. And I was wondering what phase of G2 I would see today, especially knowing about your injury, Mithy. How is it going since?
My wrist?
Yeah.
Well, I actually expected it to be a lot worse because, I mean, it's for sure better than like 1 month ago. It got a lot better. But I still had like some pain, especially like in the past week or so, because I still played a bit of scrims, like half of it. And then today was actually pretty good. Like I didn't actually feel much pain. It was just like sometimes in between the games, it was like a little bit of, what is this? It was a bit of annoying pain, but otherwise it was pretty good. So I'm happy with that.
Okay.
It's getting better.
Relieved to hear that. Do you feel like you'll be ready to play finals tomorrow? Next week, I'm sorry, still. Do you feel like you'll be ready to play finals next week still, besides the hand injury?
Wait, I actually can't hear.
And I will say it again. Do you feel like you'll be ready next week to play the finals besides the hand injury?
Yeah, of course. I mean, I'm expecting us to face OG again. I'm not sure what Rasmus thinks, but yeah, I think OG were pretty good. I just think we were better. So I expect them to meet in the finals again.
Well, get back to...
Yeah.
Oh, actually, yeah, go ahead.
I mean, I did the Euphoria prediction and I put Fnatic winning against OG. I mean, I think OG can for sure win against Fnatic, but it was more like I really want to face against Fnatic, so I was like kind of cheering for them, you know. So I obviously hope Fnatic will win, and I think they can, yeah.
But going back to the game for a bit, you guys master 1-3-1 right now. You can also play teamfight, but what is the best play for G2 to play the game right now?
Well, I mean, we're trying out some different things. Obviously, we're a new team, right? So we want to get all the, like, we want to be as flexible as possible. And I think that's like a big strength is that we are capable of playing so many different things, and we're capable of doing so many different, playing so many different ways of League of Legends, right? So I'm pretty confident in our future. And even though right now we're like learning the different ways of playing, once we like actually get the hang of it, I think we will be really, really strong.
What do you still need to improve on to be fully ready next week?
Well, I think sometimes we got a bit caught off guard, but their plays were like really telegraphed, but we still got caught off guard. For example, in the first game where we got dove bot lane, we knew it was coming, but we still kind of went back to the tower. And yeah, we just kind of need to fix our silly mistakes, and then I think we should be fine.
I wish you good luck on this one. Congratulations again for making it to the finals. And to wrap up this week, let's send it back to Shocks for post-game lobby. Take it away.
Oh, talk to you later.